Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and today we are going through all things injuries. By we, I mean myself and none other than PFF's own Dwain "The Rock" McFarland, Andrew Erickson, ninth year anniversary with the old girlfriend. As I told Andrew, I thought it had a nice ring to it, but he is taking this weekend off. Dwain, how are you, my friend?
Man, I'm good. Just, hat tip. Congrats to Andrew. 9 years. Like, wow. Like, and if you guys don't know this, like Andrew, he goes to a lot of weddings, and you go to a lot of weddings and you've been engaged 9 years. There's got to be a lot of pressure, Ian. I don't know how he deals with it, but he does. Shows up, kills it every week. Got to give a big hat tip to Andrew.
Gotta love it. Yeah, he basically said the girl asked for Friday and Saturday off. Otherwise, there wasn't going to be a 10th. And I said, that is very fair. We will see you next week. But as always, here on this edition of the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast, we're going to go through all the injury reports, let you know who to worry about, who's fine, and if someone is out, who you should be playing instead. So starting off at the quarterback position, we got Dak Prescott, aka Rain Dakota Prescott, questionable with that calf injury. He was limited, and basically what they were saying is on Friday, after we tried to ramp it up on Thursday, he was a little bit more sore than expected. So, pick whatever quote you want from Dak, from Jerry Jones, from whoever, and you're going to have a different feel from it. He is officially questionable. It'll be Cooper Rush under center. If not, this does explain, the fairly extreme line movement. I think if Dak is fully ruled out, we'll see the Vikings be over a touchdown favorite. So I wouldn't say that, the Cowboys swinging from a 1-point favorite to a 3-point dog signifies Dak is out, because again, I think the Vikings will probably be 6-point favorites if Dak was out of this one, but certainly the uncertainty around the matter has caused this to happen. Dwain, even if Dak is out, man, I still think people are going to probably have a hard time benching any of Zeke, CD, and Cooper.
Yeah, I think you would have to be in a shallow league where you just, you see some of these loaded rosters that we sometimes see. Like in those cases, I could see it. But if you're playing, in big national contests like the FFPC, the NFFC, that kind of thing, yeah, you're going to have to roll with these guys. It's bad. Like it's a huge drop off from Dak, right, to Cooper Rush. But at the same time, it's not a game where the Cowboys can probably just literally do nothing and win. They're gonna have to do more than just run the ball. Like, I think obviously that will be their first avenue, and that's what they would try to lean into, using play action and that kind of stuff. I think, Ian, if you don't get Dak, basically what you're hoping for is like a big play out of either Amari, or CD Lamb. But knowing that it is a good enough matchup against Minnesota, when I say good enough, like meaning they're going to have to get out of their box, like to just win the game. They can't just sit back. It's not like they're playing the Jaguars or the Lions where they could be like, we'll just basically take the Sean Payton with Jameis Winston stance, like just do as little as possible to win. That's how they'll start the game. But eventually the Vikings are going to score points because the Cowboys defense is not good. It's opportunistic. The Cowboys defense is opportunistic. It's not like the Stonewall defense. So yeah, I think you're going to have to, for the most part, you'll be keeping them in unless you're just super deep or you're playing in a shallow league.
Trey Lance, questionable with a knee injury. Jimmy Garoppolo has already been called the starter. Regardless, we'll see how long that sticks. Again, third worst in both big-time throw rate and turnover-worthy play rate. I'm pretty surprised, Dwain. Look, I know Fields and company have been bad, but what have the 49ers done this year to be 3.5-point road favorites? I don't know. I'm not a professional gambler.
I'm with you. They've done nothing to earn that.
Zach Wilson is out for at least this week, looking like another one with the knee issue. Joe Flacco is not going to be ready, which means it is Mike White under center for the New York Jets going up against the Bengals. They are understandably 10.5-point dogs in that one. And with Corey Davis now looking doubtful with a hip issue, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, looking like Michael Carter is the only person in that Jets offense that you can even consider starting in Fantasyland. We also have Baker Mayfield playing through the pain with that AC joint from Kevin Stefanski. He said that Baker functionally he's 100%. So I think we all can relate to that kind of feel. So Baker will be giving it a go. But Dwain, this has already been a Browns offense that wants to run the ball more than just about anyone. Yeah. We know Baker.
I don't want to start Baker anyway. So Baker, now that he's hurt, I really don't want to start him.
Yeah, but I don't want to even touch Beckham or Landry. I think it's Nick Chubb is the only one we really feel confident about this week. And Dearness is an okay flex.
Here's my thought. If you're willing to play look, Beckham has separate concerns with the shoulder. It's been limited, so he could end up getting knocked out of the game. But I'll be honest with you, Case Keenum is the same thing as Baker Mayfield. Like, there's not even a downgrade. This is an offense that just wants a caretaker at quarterback. They're going to run the ball as much as they can unless they're forced out of it. They're going to use play action. And guess what? Case Keenum has actually played in this offense before. It was in Minnesota 3 years ago, and he was just as good, if not better, than Baker Mayfield for fantasy purposes. Well, actually, let's say for real life purposes. That team got deep in the playoffs. So I wouldn't say deep, but that team got into the playoffs and had a surprise win against the Saints, where they got the walk-off with Diggs on that throw from Keenum. Now, Keenum definitely throws some what the hell balls, where you're like, okay, that was just a blatant pick, but so does Baker Mayfield. So to me, honestly, I know this is going to make a lot of Browns fans mad, but I don't see a difference in Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum.
Moving on to running back, we got Saquon Barkley, who Joe Judge was optimistic about his chances of practicing on Friday. Of course, Saquon did not end up practicing, still looking like he's a week away from returning from that ankle sprain. Continue to fire up, people. Devontae Booker as a volume-based RB2. He has handled 20, 16, and 17 combined carries and targets over the past 3 weeks, leaves him as one of just 10 running backs with more than 50 expected fantasy points during that time. Nick Chubb not only practiced in full on Friday with the calf injury, he has not even listed on the injury report. Dwayne, we can go back to 2019. That was when Kareem Hunt was suspended for the first 8 weeks. Stefanski wasn't there, but hey, Stefanski was there in 2020 when we saw Kareem Hunt really get an every down role once Chubb was out of the picture. Chubb did play that role in 2019 without Hunt. What kind of snap touch split are you expecting? Do you see us being more 60-40 in favor of Chubb? Do you earn still eating, or do you see it potentially being like an 80-90%? Let's see how many times we can give Nick Chubb the ball.
Because Dearness Johnson played so well last week, Ian, and he's actually flashed a little bit before.
Yeah,
I think we're talking like 65%, for Chubb,
fair.
Maybe 70%. But I think, and look, that's not bad. That's normal outside of a very few, just like 2 to 3 backs. Like, if you're getting to 65, 75% of the snaps, typically you're pretty much an every down back and you're getting spelled. And so that's still okay. I don't know where you have Chubb this week. I just went to have lunch and got back and got to see that the full practice had happened, but I had him at number 7 before that. And part of it is it's still a tough matchup. You've got the Steelers. That's the worst matchup from a running back strength of schedule on the slate, from a standpoint of our PFF grades, but you still have a really good offensive line. And so it's almost like part of the Steelers' strength is kind of muted by the fact that when you look at the Browns, they're like, oh yeah, well, we're also kind of badass up front. So, and we've seen Chubb actually play well before against the Steelers. So I'm kind of contemplating, do I move him up? I mean, 7's pretty high. I've got him just below Jonathan Taylor right now. I've got JT at 6. I've got Darrell Henderson at 5. And so I've got Chubb at 7. I've got Kamara at 8, and I had Aaron Jones at 9. So that's about, I don't know where you have Chubb, but I'm thinking 65 to 70% of the touches. Tough matchup, but man, it's just hard. If Nick Chubb's going to get all the work behind that line, it's hard to not love him.
I have Chubb a little bit lower, actually, at RB13, just because I'm not sure. Because that's kind of like where I think his usage suggested he kind of should be before the injury occurred. I had Aaron Jones as my RB3 this week, just fully anticipating him getting fed like he was on Thursday night. I got Alvin Kamara 5 with the receiving work finally turning around for him, but it is against the Buccaneers. I would definitely say that, I'd see getting Chubb inside the top 10. He should be started in fantasy lineups of all shapes and sizes. It's kind of a moot point where we're going over. And I really like him in DraftKings because I don't think he's going to have that higher rostership. So I have Chubb ranked a little bit lower, but I'm going to be answering every single question with a yes. Bigger issue to go over is Austin Ekeler, questionable with the hip injury. He comes off the bye week and practices in full on Wednesday, and then all of a sudden finishes the week with back-to-back DNPs. So this is an injury that seemingly happened sometime between practice ending on Wednesday and then the beginning of Thursday. So officially questionable. Now, Dwayne, we have seen Ekeler play as a questionable player, as a game time decision, who wasn't able to practice, towards the end of the week before. Not the same injury, but clearly he's someone that they are comfortable starting, maybe reining back his workload a little bit, but still giving him a usable enough role. I will be dropping him in the ranks, obviously, compared to when I thought he was going to be at full health, but still shaping up, I think, as someone that we can start with, I guess, more confidence in your usual running back coming off a DNP. If he is out, I know Kelly's been the kind of main backup lately, but you could argue Justin Jackson is going to get the pass down work. Then we got Larry Roundtree potentially just further complicating matters. So I would lean just no on the backups, and I will be starting Ekeler as long as he's active. We don't have some sort of horrific report about only emergency only. Is that kind of how you're looking at the situation?
Yeah. I would lean to no just because we don't know for sure. I would say Kelly, my guess would be Kelly will handle 40 to 50% of the rushing load, but I can't say it for sure. My guess is Justin Jackson would get more of the passing down work, but it could just end up, to your point, being a complete, more like Ravens kind of situation, where it's just all three backs involved. I love the offense. And it's just a week where we've only got two teams on bye, right? And we don't have a ton of backs hurt this week. Like, we've got a few here that we're going to talk through, but a lot of them are just ones that we've been used to all year, like don't even count, like DeAndre Swift and Antonio Gibson. For the most part, it's pretty clean week as far as injuries go. And then we've got everybody else playing. So yeah, I would try to steer clear if I had to, if I'm in a super deep format and you're like, Dwayne, Ian, you have to pick one. I've got to use one of these guys. I would lean to Kelly. And look, it's like we say all the time, like, we can't read the coaches' minds. We can't do any of that stuff, but all we can do is look at the data. The trend is that Kelly would probably be the lead back. But what does lead back even mean in that situation? I don't think you or I can like confidently tell anyone.
I would consider playing like Kelly ahead of your McKissick's, your Singletaries, your Nyheim Hines's types of the worlds. But I think
that's fair.
I'd even fire up like the Broncos guys and like Michael Carter and Gaskin, especially now. And like maybe even Dearness Johnson over him, though. That's kind of like that.
I agree. That's probably about the spot. Like I would start considering him over Damian Williams. He would fall in the tier. Like if I make this adjustment later today, it'd be like along with Damian Williams and Boston Scott.
Okay.
Put him a little bit ahead of Nyheim Hines, all these guys. And now Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, now that they've got probably a little bit bigger roles somewhere in there, I'd probably put him just ahead of those guys, but below like your Pollards, Connor already played, probably right around Devin Singletary, like is about where I would feel.
Cool. Same page. All right. As you said, not too many running back injuries. We do have one more discussion now. I'll just run through some of the other guys, but Miles Sanders has been put on the injured reserve with the ankle injury. From what it sounds like, we had PFF's own Mario Pilato say that he's not expecting Sanders to be out for longer than the 3-week timetable. So not of the season ending variety, but it should maybe be the Kenneth Gainwell show, at least for the next few weeks. Now, Dwayne, I know you have some information on what we saw with Gainwell and Scott with Sanders out last week. It is worth noting, though, that Jordan Howard is expected to be activated from the practice squad. He was getting some run with the starters. So we know Gainwell should at least get the majority of the pass down work, Dwayne. That would be annoying, though, if we get Howard added to the equation. He starts doing his annoying vulture stuff.
Yeah, I think he's the wild card because I think you really could see Howard take over some of the early down work. I think he could take over even some of the short down and distance work. I mean, I think the 2-minute offense, to your point, the long down and distance, probably most of, the routes, like if a player is going to lead the team in routes, those will all still be Gainwell. I thought actually Jared Smola from Draft Sharks today, put out a really good tweet when I tweeted out this utilization stuff around these two backs, Gainwell and Scott, after Miles Sanders was out last week. I'll go ahead and give you guys this real quick. So this, after you had Miles Sanders leave last week, here are the snaps. Gainwell, 57%, Scott. Anyway, whatever. It's not Bernard Scott. Why is my mind going blank, Ian? Anyway, so attempts, 42%, 58%, targets, 27% to Gainwell, 5% to Scott, routes, 61% to Gainwell, 39% to Scott, long down and distance, 80% to 20%. And remember, long down distance is whenever you've got over 3 yards to go and it's third or fourth down. Short down and distance means 1 to 2 yards and it's either fourth or third down. That's 75% to Gainwell and only 25% to Scott. And then it was almost split on the 2-minute offense, which Gainwell's had most of the 2-minute offense all year over Scott. And so, but they're both really kind of the same. They're both receiving backs, which is why I really do think Howard will have a little bit of a role. But I liked what Jared Smola had put out there on Twitter after I tweeted those utilization data points out. And he was like, think of the upside scenario of Gainwell really being Chase Edmonds, a back that's going to see 50 to 60% of the snaps, but he may only handle 30 to 40% of the rushing attempts, maybe get 15, 17, 18% of the targets. So I think that's actually a pretty good comp and a lesser offense. as to what we would hope for the ceiling for Gainwell. So I'm interested in, and I know you haven't done your final stuff, but where do you have Gainwell right now in your ranks?
Well, I had Edmonds RB22. I got Gainwell RB25. So kind of on the same page there. With the Howard news, I think I will be dropping Gainwell a little bit. RB27 looks a little bit better. Maybe 28 with Gaskin, probably getting a little bump up with Malcolm Brown on IR. So something around there. I think I would put him, ahead of the dude we were just talking about, who I'm starting to lose track of names as well. I put him ahead of any sort of Chargers back that ends up coming.
Yeah, Kelly. Yeah, I know who you meant.
I think he's a mid-tier RB3 that I could see us saying yes to more times than not in start-sit questions.
Yeah. So I've got Boston Scott at 40. I've got Kenneth Gainwell at 26. I'm with you. I will probably drop Gainwell down 2 to 3 spots. Just knowing that it probably. Look, they're going to give Jordan Howard probably 5 to 10 carries. That's what I worry about. And there's not that – I say 5 to 10. The Eagles don't even run the ball 10 times in a game, Ian.
This is true.
So, I mean, they're going to get – let's rephrase that. They're going to give 2 to 3 carries to Jordan Howard, which will be 30% of the attempts for the team. But what's interesting, is this the week of all weeks, Ian, where they're playing the Lions? It's a great matchup. They're actually favored in the game. So it could be a manageable script. So it'll be interesting to see what the Eagles do this week with the backfield. But I agree with you on the ranges of where you had Gainwell.
All right. Some ones we can just run through here pretty quick. Jamal Williams, questionable with a thigh. Now, previous weeks this year, he was listed as questionable. That was actually due to a hip issue. So this was something that happened where he got added on Thursday. He was full on Wednesday, but he was able to get in another limited practice on Friday. I am expecting him to play through that. DeAndre Swift is once again listed as questionable. This has been his normal schedule while playing through his groin injury. I expect Swift to continue to work ahead in pass down situations. Hey, maybe just maybe if the Lions can keep things competitive against the Eagles, though, Jamal gets a little more run than usual. We also have Alex Collins listed as questionable as he was last week. He didn't practice on Thursday, but he also didn't practice the first 2 days last week as well. And they gave.
And we also see the Seahawks do this a lot. They do this thing where they'll have somebody practice and then they'll actually give them a DNP.
That's what Metcalf just had.
Exactly. Metcalf's done that for 2 weeks now. So, and he's doing it again this week. Sorry to interrupt.
You're good. So Collins officially questionable. We did see Rashad Penny get some run. Out of all these kind of backup running backs, I've soured the most on Collins. I have him behind Darrell, behind Booker, behind Chuba, behind Herbert, all these guys, because it does seem like they want Penny to maybe get more involved here. With that said, he is still shaping up as a home favorite against the Jaguars, who should be seeing 15 touches. So Collins, don't feel quite as good about him as maybe we did last week or the week before, but still someone that you can confidently.
Where do you have him now, Ian?
RB24.
Okay. I got him at 27, and I have him right next to Gainwell. I'm probably flipping those two.
I have them right next to each other as well. So
we're close. Okay.
Antonio Gibson not listed on the injury report. That's a nice little boost. Yeah, full practice on Friday, Dwayne. Maybe, just maybe, we get a couple targets. I don't know.
Shiver me timbers.
So, I was expecting to sit here talking about how he's going to play through the questionable tag, but he is not even listed. So that's good to see. And in Denver, obviously not a great matchup, but I understand if you people don't have much better options there. Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, they keep getting listed with these ribs, but neither one was listed on the final injury report. So they are good to go. Tevin Coleman is out with a hamstring. Another week of more Michael Carter. Hopefully Mike White continues to check it down to his heart's desire. Chris Evans has been ruled out with the hamstring injury. Just another reminder to keep an eye on that Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine usage. For those that didn't catch Dwayne and I's breakdown, we noted that Perine played in all but one of the third downs for the Bengals last week. So Mixon, look, he's facing the Jets. He's a big favorite. He deserves to be a rock solid RB1 this week. But the difference between him, flirting with that top 5 ranking and him being more of a borderline RB1 is that pass down work. And then finally, Dwayne, sad day. We were talking about this before the show started, but Darrington Evans not practicing on Friday with a knee, and then went ahead and placed on injured reserve for the second time ending his season. Someone that, I certainly had a nice chunk of in the best ball streets throughout the summer. Someone that we were telling people to, hey, go give this guy a potential bench add if the roster can handle it, because he was projecting as the key backup for Derrick Henry. So at this point, Dwain, it's Jeremy McNichols by default, but I really think they would just bring someone in and, basically just pray that Henry doesn't get hurt.
Yeah. Look, the way I look at this is I have about 80% of my leagues now have an open spot where I can go churn someone through, because Darrington Evans is a player that I had rostered a ton. So hate to hear this for him, but yeah, I agree with you. I think they would need to do something, knowing the style of this offense and how much they like to run the ball. I just don't see that being a full-time role for McNichols. Having said that, he should probably be on rosters right now in deeper formats, because until they get it figured out, he might be in line for a decent role for a week or two, right? Because if it's the person that's not on their roster now, I haven't looked at their practice squad.
Here we go. I'm looking right now.
You are. This is why they pay you the big bucks.
We got, I'm going to botch this name. Mekhi Sargent. That's our new guy.
Oh yeah.
Out of Key West, Florida.
Yeah. He's actually had a couple carries. Yeah. That's who it would probably be. So, but it's just it's less exciting. When you hear that and who knows, maybe he's fine. But I'm with you. It's I still wonder, are they going to sign someone? But it's interesting. Pretty much everyone has been signed up, because the way that the IR rules and practice squad rules work now, because of COVID, and they basically, obviously COVID's still going on, but they'll probably end up keeping a lot of this stuff in place. And so a lot of backs that would normally just be sitting out there, they're gone. They're not on the market. Ian's favorites, like Duke Johnson, they're signed. They're on rosters. So I don't know who. The list is not super long of people that you could go get. You could poach someone else's practice squad, but you could have to pay something. So I don't know.
2 words, Dwain: Frank Gore. On to wide receivers. Bunch of news on the Browns. Again, though, people, we're expecting to say run first Browns offense and not too much really concentrated target share for any of these guys. With that said, Odell Beckham listed as questionable as he continues to play through the AC joint issue. He has already come out and said he's not going to have surgery in season and, just end things. So just realize that severe re-aggravation, we are past the point of just assuming that Beckham is going to be able to put this together. He deserves to be treated, there we go, as a wide receiver 4 this week. Jarvis Landry, not listed on the final injury report with the knee. He probably should be ranked a little bit ahead of Beckham, but even then, we're looking at more of a low ceiling wide receiver 3. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been ruled out with that groin injury. So nothing too much to talk about in Cleveland. Dwain, we do have a probable returning T.Y. Hilton. He managed to get in a full practice on Friday after initially not being able to make the field. He had the neck injury that left him out until week 6, I believe. Then he suffered the quad issue. I don't think that many people are going to be signing up to really roster Hilton with that much confidence, but how do you think this impacts Michael Pittman?
I don't like it, because, we broke this down a little bit earlier in the week with the Colts. It's if they can, what they've shown they want to do now is they really want to be super balanced. And when I say balance, it's actually in today's NFL, it's run heavy. They want to be 50-50. And they're throwing the ball more to the backs, even on the early downs. And so now if you're going to throw the ball to the backs on early downs, you're going to want to run the ball more, and you're going to divvy up targets between someone besides just Michael Pittman. I think that hurts his stock, really, the rest of the way, Ian. I guess the positive you could say is that the offense is playing better. Wentz is slowly playing better, but it's just not a high volume offense. And the problem is, over the last few weeks with Pittman, we haven't seen the early season, target share hog. We haven't seen the 30%ers, right? We've seen 15s and 17s and 18%. And that's not enough in an offense like this. Now, last week he would have been higher, had we not had to erase, some of the penalties. He did have 2 PIs inside the 5, 1 inside the end zone for Pittman. So he could have had an even bigger day in the utilization box score than he did. But overall, I don't like it. Anytime you've got a run heavy offense that I don't think is great, I put the Colts offense as average, right? Yep. And now you're having to divvy that up more ways than one. I think it makes it kind of like a roulette wheel. It's okay, well, am I betting on black? Am I betting on red? I don't know which one. Is it going to be Hilton? Is it going to be Pittman? I basically need a touchdown. I would much rather see Pittman assert himself no matter what, even with Hilton active. Like if we got a couple of weeks of that, you could change my mind. But right now I'm just a bit out.
Yeah. And for those that caught my DFS podcast with Andrew Erickson, which is out on Friday every week, Pittman was someone that we were talking about having in that cash game build alongside Chris Godwin. I think now the way things are shaping up, I'm happy to get off of kind of Kupp or Henry trying to go up that high. And what you can do is basically go Godwin with T. Higgins, who is right there at the same price point as Pittman, maybe even $100 cheaper, and then go up and get one of Ridley, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, whoever you fancy, and then go ahead and bring it back with Najee. So that would be my DFS update from this news. Over with the Giants. I mean, Joe Judge, what the hell, man? He said he was optimistic that
he's just optimistic, but no one's going to play.
He's just optimistic. He's an optimistic guy. So said Galladay and Saquon should be back. Neither of them were. So Kenny G looking like he is trending towards missing another game with the knee. And good news, Sterling Shepard said on Thursday he is feeling good now after getting in a limited practice. And then he went ahead and backed that up with another appearance at practice on Friday. And then we have Kadarius Toney, who returned to practice on Friday with that ankle injury. So I think, Dwayne, with all due respect to Kenny Galladay and some of his contested catch goodness, this is awesome having Shepard and Toney out there for Daniel Jones going up against a Chiefs defense that, let's face it, we haven't seen them do much at all. I think if people are out there, you expected to have your Fields or your Lance and you're really looking thin at quarterback, don't sleep on Daniel Jones having himself a nice second half, because really this year he's been great when he hasn't been concussed or playing with complete nobodies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Toney, like Shepard is obviously huge, but Toney gives you that electric ability where the quarterback does a little and the receiver does a lot. Like, and that's the kind of people you really want. If you've got an average to below average quarterback, let's face it, like in real life, that's what Daniel Jones is at this point. Not saying he could never be better than that, folks, but that's just kind of where we are. And we love him as a fantasy player because he also rushes, but Toney just gives you that ability that, wow, any play could be boom. It could just be like you throw it 5 yards, he takes it the next 60 and does the rest of the work. So that's always an upgrade when you can have a weapon like that in your offense.
Couple more receiver situations. Corey Davis started the week with a full practice. He is now looking doubtful after finishing the week with a DNP. His own head coach said it's not looking good for week 8. Dwayne, I think this just says like play Michael Carter and that's it, because we're going to get a rotation of like 5 Jets receivers. Yeah. I mean, as much as I would like to say Elijah Moore, but no. Yeah. So
yeah, we're not getting Flacco. If you had at least Flacco, and even then it'd be kind of dicey despite the fact he knows the offense coming in this quick. Next week, maybe Flacco can do enough to stabilize things, but I agree with you. Yeah, it's going to be one less person in the rotation, which on one hand, you're like, okay, that's exciting. And then you're like, oh, but who's the starting quarterback? Yeah, Mike White. So I would avoid it.
If any of you sickos out there still want to go at this situation, I say Jamison Crowder, probably your best bet. Mike Williams.
For sure.
Mike Williams with the Chargers. Good to go. Practicing full all week after having that knee issue before their bye. Great to hear. And with Ekeler potentially being out, man, Keenan and Mike Williams, all the targets. I like the idea of stacking them with Herbert in some GPPs.
Jared Cook, great matchup this week too.
Yeah, even though Donald Parham might be better. DK Metcalf, expecting him to be just fine. Again, same routine as the last 2 weeks where he just takes Thursday practice off to manage that foot injury. Deebo Samuel scared everyone on Wednesday with the DMP, but Kyle Shanahan, like for once being a good guy and giving us some info, already said that he is plenty optimistic. That
I think Kyle Shanahan realizes that we've all turned on him and we're done now. I think these younger coaches, they know what's going on in social media. I think at this point he's like, wow, I was kind of like this untouchable for so long and people are souring on me. Yes, we're souring on you, Kyle. Get your shit together.
But thank you for this isolated event, Kyle.
Yes. So, Devo, we want to be encouraging and positive. So Kyle, we love you. We just want to say thank you.
But also get your shit together, man. Devo continuing to start him with confidence. Antonio Brown out with the ankle. With that in mind, Tyler Johnson will be in 3 wide receiver sets. But as we saw last week, that could just mean far more target isolation for Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Evans will be on Lattimore Island this week. So we'll see what happens there. Chris Godwin is the one I'm truly expecting to blow the hell up. Now, this one's a little interesting, Dwayne. We got Devontae Parker being floated out in a bunch of trade rumors. He is on track to play this week per Pro Football Network's Adam Beasley, returning from that hamstring and shoulder injury. We've seen this happen before where players right before the trade deadline get that kind of target hog game. We have seen Parker in the past, win these battles against Tre'Davious White. Am I galaxy brain this too much? Or could Parker maybe be someone that actually returns upside wide receiver 3 value in this spot?
No, I think he could. Look, Parker's biggest thing has always just really been, his health. And then he had to live through Adam Gase, of course. But look, he's a talented player. He's still a former first round pick. Yes, he hasn't lived up to it, but he's a player that if you want to go contested catch style, he can win for you. And we've seen Tua go to him in the past. In fact, last year down the stretch, he was Tua's most targeted player. Most people don't realize that. People think, oh, Tua's always just been the safe check down, even before this year, pushing the ball more vertical in their new offense. Last year, Parker, was his guy. Did Parker play better with Fitzpatrick because of his style? Yes. But he was still Tua's most targeted receiver for multiple weeks whenever Parker was healthy. So I do think I do think he's fully back. He's been nursing this stuff for 3 or 4 weeks now. The Dolphins, hey, Mel guy, actually, this is all the kids getting dropped off from school. Appreciate you backing up in the middle of the podcast. We all love you. But anyway, yeah, when you look at Parker, I think he has the ability. You still got Will Fuller out. So it's a situation where I'll probably have him as a boom bust wide receiver 4 this weekend, just because we've got a full slate.
Also, we have Julio Jones ruled out with a hamstring. Hate to see it. AJ Brown, 20 target season. I went on to the last game they played last week to see what their wide receiver rotation was other than Julio, and each of Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, Josh Reynolds, and Marcus Johnson played between 29 and 30 snaps. So we are truly getting a 3.
And is Reynolds good to go? Because he was injured earlier before I went to lunch. The last I saw, he was questionable as well.
That's a good question. And my next question
is Chester Rogers was questionable too. I was looking at it earlier. I was like, God, they're going to have to sign some dude off the street. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. I got Tennessee. Boom. So we have got, Julio Jones is out. Chester Rogers is off the injury report. So he's going to play. Okay. Yeah. So we're not that you're going to start either one of those, but they will at least have bodies.
But you could imagine. But yeah, AJB, wide receiver 1 season. Gotta love it. Terry McLaurin removed from the injury report with a full practice on Thursday. First time in 2 weeks. Always happy to see Terry getting healthy. And Curtis Samuel out again with the groin, and Diami Brown out with the knee. Should lead to some more reps for DeAndre Carter and Adam Humphries. But hey, it should just be Terry McLaurin eating against the Denver Broncos secondary. That is good. But hey, we'll take 15 targets to Terry McLaurin whenever we can get him. Dwain, this one's a little interesting. So Jerry Jeudy, someone that they didn't want to bring out for the Thursday night game because they didn't think he was fully back to 100%. He didn't practice Friday after experiencing some soreness. We did have Vic Fangio say that he's still optimistic Jeudy will make his return off the injured reserve. So if Jeudy is out there, I tend to think he'll be given his usual role because they didn't play him last Thursday night. Obviously, if he is going to be limited, that's a positive for one Courtland Sutton.
Yeah. I think we have one more week though here, Ian, where you can just go ahead and trust Sutton, especially with this news. If Judy's going to be sore, and who knows, this could be gamesmanship stuff from the Broncos. The Broncos are one of those teams that they'll list their whole team as limited, the whole thing. So you just kind of have to watch the way some of these coaches handle it. So Vic Fangio is one of those that when I hear it, I give it a little bit less, credence that I would. The Browns are another team that will list everyone as limited. So you kind of have to take all this stuff into context when you're looking at this. But yes, if Judy's back, and I've got him on a lot of different rosters where, I've got 2 flex spots I've got to fill, he's going to be out there. But if I'm in a shallower league, I'm not going to force it if I don't have to. So I don't know. We'd have to talk about players that we would start over Jerry Jeudy. That's more of a start sit thing for, Sunday morning. But yeah, I think with Jeudy, we can trust one more week of Sutton. I think he's going to be the lead. I think, when I look at Jeudy, he's a borderline I'm grading him as a low end wide receiver 3 this week. Not a low end wide receiver 2. That's your brand. So I'm going to say low end wide receiver 3.
I have him wide receiver 35, Dwain, on the same page. Chase Claypool removed from the injury report. He is ready to go. And just keep in mind, people, I was more I wasn't super concerned about Claypool with Juju out of the picture, but the fact that James Washington is the odd man out with Ray McLeod in the slot is especially good news for Claypool's air yard share in this offense. So him and Deontay will get some duds here and there because of Big Ben, but I do think they should be in more starting lineups and not here moving forward. Michael Gallup is eligible to return off the IR from that calf per Stephen Jones, though. Probably won't see him this week, but Gallup is right around the corner. So someone to continue to look at, if you see him out in free agency, because the return, even if it's not coming this week, is near. One of the funnier DMPs this week was Devontae Smith with a headache. He has overcome. He found his ibuprofen. Devontae Smith is good to go, not listed on the final injury report. We have Terrence Marshall out again with a concussion. Dwayne, do you hate yourself enough to fire up Robbie Anderson at GPP this week? I think I do, but it'll be minimal exposure there.
No, for sure. I did it the last 2 weeks.
I did the last 3.
I'm pot committed, Ian. I'm pot committed. I'm putting all the chips in the middle. Look, eventually some of this stuff, Robbie's biggest problem has been Sam Darnold. Only 55% of his passes have been catchable, and that's 21% below the NFL average. Now, Robbie hasn't been good in contested situations. He's catching 13%, which is 30% below the league average. So we've talked about it before. Those two things combined, it's just been problematic, but the targets are still there. And that's the thing we care about the most. Those other things, it's funny, they're really important until they're not all of a sudden anymore. And you're like, oh, wow, look at Robbie Anderson, 3 games where he's had 8 catches each. So I still lean towards that being the potential outcome versus just, trying to be emotional and be stuck on, oh my God, Robbie Anderson just sucks. No, we know Robbie Anderson can be okay.
Only 3 wide receivers with a catchable target rate under 60% this year: Elijah Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Odell Beckham. I'm not crying. You're crying. Kendrick Bourne, questionable with a knee, limited all week. If you look at the Patriots freaking injury report, they have 14 or 15 questionable guys that were all limited all week. So just typical.
Yeah, they're the same way.
Typical
them and the Browns and the Broncos all do it.
Seems like Bourne's going to play. I don't really know, though. I really think they're just going to embrace the run against his Chargers defense. So even Bourne being out, I don't think it really impacts Myers or Nelson Aguilar all that much. You can feel slightly better, but just not really a passing game that I'm expecting to have a lot of volume this week. And finally, most importantly, Auden Tate questionable with a thigh. Heal up, Auden. We're all rooting for you. And by we all, I mean mostly myself.
Just
Best number 4 wide receiver in the league. All the guy does is score touchdowns when you throw him the ball. And get better, Auden. Final thing here, Dwayne. So we talked a little about Van Jefferson earlier this week and how we shouldn't buy back into him because we saw him have this 90% snap rate before. It happened back in week 2. Then Deshaun Jackson came, really just played 20-30% snaps and was kind of rotating with them target wise, air yard wise in particular for our next month. Now it comes out that Deshaun Jackson, I think because he has some incentives in his contract, he probably wants to hit, which go get paid, man. Makes sense. He is not happy being just kind of this 1-2 shot a game receiver as their wide receiver 4. He and the Rams are going to mutually look to try to trade him. So, man, that's pretty good. Now we can seemingly lock in Van Jefferson, of course, so this could be a sign that maybe Tutu Atwell gets a little bit more involved. What was your reaction to that D-Jax trade news? Because I do feel better about Jefferson now, maybe emerging as a more consistent flex.
Yeah, and I mean, that could honestly be part of it as well, is that Jackson sees, wow, I mean, Jefferson is just a good young player. At the most I'm going to see is 20 to 30% of these routes, sometimes less, each week. So I think it does speak well to Jefferson. For Jackson, I would love to see him be able to stay with a team like the Rams and just provide that added spark whenever needed. At this point in your career, it's dude, you're not going to go be I don't know that you're even a 2 on most teams. And whenever you're out there that much, I hate to say this, you're probably going to get hurt. Why not enjoy this ride that's the Rams offense? What if Robert Woods went down? What if Van Jefferson went down and you get to play on this team that could win a Super Bowl? There's a lot of things that can happen. But yes, for Van Jefferson, it's a good thing. For the Rams, I think they would, obviously, who knows? He may be upset and making noise in the locker room, so they feel like they have to do something. But it is good for Van Jefferson.
Before we get to tight ends and a couple more notes, people got to pay some quick bills. I invite you all, if you are not already subscribed to PFF, to do so and use code FANTASY to save 25% off. What can you get with the PFF sub? I'm happy you asked. All of PFF's locked article content, weekly player rankings to help you set your lineup, strength of schedule for every fantasy player. PFF's NFL and college football betting dashboards are grade-powered projections and cover probabilities and more. So again, please, we all love you, the listeners out there. Support the pod and use promo code FANTASY for 25% off any PFF sub if you so desire. Also want to note the NFL fans, if you're hungry for a big win this week, go to DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL who has you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game. Pick the Rams. And if they do, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's that simple. Again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win. Just pick the Rams and win $200 in free bets if they win. You win with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And also, whether it's football success or financial savvy, the right questions help set the stage for winning strategies. Western Southern is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to share insights that can help put you ahead on both your fantasy and financial scorecards. Want to hear about Chris's old playing days or behind the scenes with Al on Sunday Night Football? How about a need to know for your financial future? Now you can ask about either or both. And every football financial question you ask earns you a chance to win a catered party for February's big game. Check out the Chris Collinsworth podcast. Dwayne and I were actually on that on the Friday edition. So go peep that for a lot of good fantasy talk and stories from Chris. And also check out Western and Southern's Instagram for answers to the best questions each week. Submit your questions at westernsouthern.com/askchris. One more time, that is westernsouthern.com/askchris. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the link in the description below. Remember, Western Southern, you can rest assured on game day. Final one, people, it's football season. You know what that means? It means we're going for two here at the sponsors of today's show. Manscaped, blitzing through hairs has never been easier. And it's time you join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code PFF at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. It's 3 and out the window with all other trimmers. Again, 20% off and free shipping with the code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code PFF. Dwayne, tight end, Rob Gronkowski, he is listed as questionable. Seems like he is poised to come back, though, with this ribs issue holding him back the last several weeks. Still, I believe, ranks among the top 15 tight ends, if not even top 12 in fantasy points after all those 2 touchdown games to start the year. And by all, I mean 2. But either way, Dwayne, Gronk, he's back in the tight end 1 range, particularly with AB out.
Yeah, it was interesting because like when I looked at it yesterday, like they had him as a full practice Thursday and they had removed him. Like he didn't say questionable or anything. And then like now today it's another LP and it gets questionable. So yeah, I'm guessing that Gronkowski is going to play. And as soon as he suits up, he belongs in the top 10 conversation. I would say higher, like maybe 7 or 8, but we've just had a few other players emerge. And anytime you're dealing with a player that's playing with the kind of injury that he is, where there's a true risk of re-aggravating, especially playing the position that he does, it's going to keep him a little lower, but still top 10, for tight ends, I think that's fine. And he could earn his way up the pecking order from there.
TJ Hawkinson not listed. Great to see. He has been battling that ankle injury. Yeah.
If we could ever just get DeAndre Swift off of there, come on. They're not going to do it though.
A man can dream. Hawkinson keeps playing through the pain. You are obviously starting him if he is on the fantasy squad. Jonnu Smith, yet another all limited and questionable Patriot. Does seem like, he's been limited all week, so I would expect him to play through that shoulder injury. And he has been getting fed the ball a little bit more. He had he was getting fed in his 17 snaps in this last one, but more than anything, I think him being active just makes you feel less good about Hunter Henry, and just both these guys when they're active aren't going to be anything more than touchdown dependent tight end 2s more times than not. And really, I think one of the most interesting notes overall here, Dwayne, Eric Ebron is out, started the week with a full practice, and the hamstring has been ruled out now. Pat Freiermuth, he's one of several tight ends around the league that is an overqualified tight end 2 who we really can't get behind in fantasy land as long as they're splitting things with the starter. But Dwayne, now that he's out of the picture, I don't know if I can squeeze him in the top 12. I have Ricky Seals-Jones as my tight end 12. I might try to get him right behind Ricky, though.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. And it's the timing is kind of impeccable. Even though we only have 2 teams on bye this week, they represent who? Mark Andrews and Darren Waller.
Yeah.
So this is pretty big news. I think Freiermuth, is a guy that he's going to be available on pretty much every wire, unless you play in a deeper, like tight end premium type format, like, we do over on our team with the FFPC. I'll certainly be looking to see if we can squeeze him in there. And Ian, God knows, like everybody on our roster has been hurt. And then you also have Dawson Knox out with a hand again this week. So some of you are hurting at tight end. And I do think that Freiermuth could be a nice 1 week kind of, solve the riddle for you until you get your other players back.
Did mention Dawson Knox being out due to hand surgery. So Tommy Sweeney will be their tight end if you are just beyond desperate. Okay. I do think we simply will see more 4 wide receiver stuff with Gabriel Davis, who's an interesting punt play over on DraftKings. Final note, Tyler Kroft, questionable with the back injury with the Jets. Either way, don't play Ryan Griffin. Saw that every down roll that pretty much only I cared about last week. Go back down. And there's just not enough in this Jets passing game to expect anything from Griffin or really anyone else for that matter. Now, some other injuries to look at. Trent Williams, I believe, is listed as questionable, but he could even just be ruled out. He's got an ankle injury, wasn't out there last week. Obviously would be a downgrade for Elijah Mitchell and really this whole offense against the Bears, although the Bears will be out and not have Khalil Mack with the foot issue. So honestly, man, like Dwayne, the one thing I don't get, I just want Khalil Herbert everywhere this week and everything. Like, I don't know. People, I think, are still giving Damian Williams a little too much credit. It is possible that he was eased in last week because of him just getting activated off the COVID list. But when we got reporters saying that are, plugged in with the Bears, we got them saying that Herbert has seemingly already leaped Damian. He is now Montgomery's 1A backup. And we had Damian healthy enough to be active out there. Like, Khalil Herbert has some of the lowest ownership projections among these running backs right now. I'm starting him everywhere in season long and probably going to lock button him in DFS too.
I've got him at 24. So I have him right there.
24? Like, why? He should be higher. He's an 80% snap back.
I get it. But I have a lot of players like that this week ahead of him. I got,
where do you have Elijah Mitchell?
I got Devonta Booker. I'd rather start Elijah Mitchell than
why?
I would.
He doesn't catch a ball.
Tell us how you really feel. Like, I have them in the same tier. I've got all these guys in tier 4. So like when I do a tier, it's basically like, if you want to argue,
you don't need to tier me, Dwayne.
And I argue the other. Yeah. It's like, I would be okay with that. Like, I've got Chuba Hubbard, Chase Edmonds, Antonio Gibson, Khalil Herbert. Like, those guys are pretty much all the same, to me, this week. I think Herbert's matchup, his RB strength of schedule is a 4. His offensive line run blocking advantage is a 3. Whenever I look at Elijah Mitchell, I've got run block strength advantage of 55, a plus 55, and I've got a running back strength of schedule of a 6. So it's really just a hat tip to Elijah Mitchell's. Honestly, the matchup is a little bit better. I just trust the offense a little bit more. But yes, Herbert is an every down back. I do think there is the slight question, which you actually planted into my brain, and now you're going to argue with me about it. You planted this into my brain earlier in the week that maybe it was just because Damian was coming back from COVID, Dwayne. So that Ian's voice has been in my head. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get Khalil Herbert, my top 24, but I'm going to put him at 24 because Ian could be right. And now Ian's slapping me in the face about it, but whatever, man.
No, now I'm slapping you in the face because I didn't even mention all the 49ers injuries on defense before going in on that. D4 with the concussion is doubtful. Linebacker Aziz Al-Shair, doubtful with the concussion. Samson Abukum, questionable with an ankle. Javon Kinlaw ruled out for the season. Dwayne, it's Khalil Herbert week. Whether you want to admit it or not, Khalil Herbert is a good running back, and he's going.
I have him as a low end RB2.
You hate
low end
Khalil
RB2. So where do you have Khalil Herbert?
RB16.
Okay. Yeah. So he would, guess what? He would be the top player in my tier 4 if I move him up. Okay.
All right.
I do hear what you're saying. Like, look, I do hear what you're saying. Like, he played a ton last week and he's looked great. It's not with Herbert. What I like with some of these guys, like, you can kind of hear us tongue in cheek. Like, if you folks listen to us enough, like, as much as I'm like the utilization person and I love all that stuff. Like, we still love talent. Like, what I like about Herbert is I get utilization. And when I watch him, it's fun. It's exciting. Like, when I watch Darrell Williams, no offense. Like, it's like, I'm just like, well, he's getting touches and he's in a good offense. When I watch Devontae Booker, it's like, well, he's at least getting touches.
Yeah.
When I watch Herbert, it's like, he's getting touches and wow, like he looks good. Like, is he maybe better than David Montgomery? Like is the first thing that pops into my head. So I probably have some tweaking to do. But I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
I appreciate that. Real quick, just some extra injury stuff that comes in as we are recording this at 5 p.m. on Friday. Levante David, stud Buccaneers linebacker, got in a full practice on Friday, still listed as questionable, but expecting him to be able to return, which is great. And we have Richard Sherman actually listed as questionable with that hamstring injury, so potential for Buccaneers to get some reinforcement in the secondary. On the Saints side of things, Deontay Harris is questionable with the hamstring injury. He was limited on Thursday and Friday, just a small kind of downer to Marquez Callaway potential ceiling. We do continue to have Taysom Hill out. He has not returned to practice since having that concussion. Continues to clear things up for everybody involved near the red zone. I believe that about covers it, Dwayne. We still might get some of the West Coast guys bringing in some stuff in the afternoon, but yeah, I think we are pretty much good. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we go participate in Friday night shenanigans?
No, I'm ready for Friday night shenanigans. No, I think I was just looking back through the list to make sure there wasn't anything else, which we kind of craft this together. So, I mean, I'll just say the name Auden Tate again, just because, this is your podcast. So
keep him in your prayers, everyone. Auden Tate, we need him out there.
Yeah, no, I think we got everything, man. Good luck to everybody this weekend. It's kind of nice. This is a little bit of a lighter injury week overall than what we've seen, and we've got most teams playing. So hopefully it's not anything like last week that some of us had to go through. I had some teams last weekend. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how people feel about this, but I look more kind of the long-term strategy. I had a few teams where literally I didn't want to drop someone just to pick up someone that I knew really sucked bad. And so I took a zero, in a couple of spots in some positions last week because I'm like, I'm not releasing this person to pick up this other person just for 1 week. So this week's, I feel a lot better. I feel more relaxed. I feel chill. I feel ready for the weekend.
It's a week-to-week league, Dwayne. Week-to-week league. One final note, Jalen Ramsey is now questionable with an illness. When they're listed with an illness, I mean, it basically rules out COVID because otherwise they would be on the COVID IR. We'll see. Hopefully he didn't eat at Chipotle. Either way, I mean, it'd be a nice boost for Brandon Cooks. Still not exactly loving him as long as Davis Mills is under center. And I guess that would be the one note we forgot to mention. Tyrod Taylor will not be starting this week. That will be Davis Mills again. They scored 22 points against the Patriots. Otherwise, they have not cracked even 10 with Davis under center. This could be a sheesh from me. So yeah, just try to, avoid those Texans for the most part. Dwayne, actually, we haven't talked yet about David Johnson, right? What's your kind of feel here now that Mark Ingram is out of town? I think that if we can hopefully get this condensed around 2 running backs now, because it really is 2. When we see Rex Burkhead there, he's only playing a few snaps as it is. It really isn't a 3-back committee. So if it's only 2 between Lindsey and David, don't freak out. But I think David Johnson could become a fairly consistent RB3, at least someone that we're not just completely writing off every single week if he keeps the pass down work and then starts actually getting 10 or so carries per game.
From a talent perspective, I like Lindsey because he's got the younger legs. But to your point, in an offense that's going to trail all the time, if this, I don't know how much it helps David Johnson just because he was already getting that role anyway. So I feel like Lindsey's going to get more of the early down role. But if it does equal a broadening in role for anyone to where it could all of a sudden make them, viable somehow in fantasy, especially in thin bye weeks and stuff, it probably is David Johnson.
Yeah.
But I still don't trust it because I know Burkhead's been the RB4. But look, this is what coaching tree. This is the coaching tree that comes from the world of running back by committee. So for all we know, Burkhead will now, where before he was getting just a few snaps as the 4th player, now he'll be elevated to the 3rd player and be that jack of all trades kind of thing again. So we'll just have to see. But if I had to pick one that I was just wanting to put, a chip on to say, hey, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, this could matter to me, I still think it's Phillip Lindsay. I'd just rather take the younger player that I've liked. I've watched him in the past and thought that he was an underrated asset. But at the same time, if he's in the old Mark Ingram role, even if he fully assumes that, we never wanted to play Mark Ingram. Because they trail. And
that's my thing with it. I agree with you. I think Lindsey is better than David Johnson as a rusher in the year 2021. But we know Lindsey isn't getting the pass down work. David has it. And I think there's a better chance that
if he could expand into Ingram's role. You're right. I mean, he'd be the one that we could, and we have some of these players every year, right? Where we're like, wow, we really don't want to start them. But every time we look down, we're like, wow, 13 points. Whew, that got me through. If there was a player that I had to say is most likely to give me 13 points, whew, got me through, like, and put hyphens in between those. That's actually a description. And then put David Johnson's name. Yes.
Okay, I hope you all have enjoyed our discussion on just some terrible players throughout this edition of the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. So truly hope everyone has a great weekend. Go Bucks, beat the shit out of those Nittany Lions. And for Dwain, I'm Ian. Until next time, take care, everybody.